Alright, here we are to continue the game where we were in Symbaroum. Our characters were exploring an abandoned village, kind of a ghost town, where a ritual was performed and an Ambrian knight killed or sacrificed. Our characters found a stone written with runes that they could not decipher, and an old library that was burned down. However, it had some downstairs going to an archive inside where a ghoul was found, and later spiritual tribesmen trying to communicate something in an untold language. With that said, our characters came out of the archive and will continue investigating this abandoned village for further clues. I'm going then to propose a scene prompt to see what could be next, regardless of what their characters want to do themselves. So we've got an unexpected complication, which is number 6, an accident that happens. So as the characters are coming out from the archive, they hear some crumbling, and the library, the old hut, which was already in bad shape, the entrance begins to fall apart and come down. So everybody rushes forward. However, Rother, the changeling rogue, who is with the kid, his own son, notices that his son is lagging a bit behind, so he needs to quickly roll backwards and take him out of danger. Let's see how this goes with an RPG roll. Goltas quick is of 13. I guess this situation is slightly tricky, so he will get a -1 penalty, so he needs to take a 12 or less to avoid his son getting in danger. He rolls backward, grabs his son quickly just before the top of the roof falls down in the entrance of the archive. Dust blows around, and the archive that they were in is no longer reachable. Is everybody alright? Asks Hydra. Everybody nods. Are you okay? Asks Goltas to his son. Yes, father, I'm fine. Is there anything else to discover here? They take another look around the abandoned village to see what else do we see or find. I'm going to use Game Apprentice cards and roll a random card to see the oracle for listening, to hear a sound. We hear fire crackles, so something is still on fire despite the silence. We turn around and the characters look for where is this fire coming from. And I'm gonna get another card for location. I've got a small room that belongs to a hut that's still on fire. Goltas the goblin says, fire is good, it means something's recent. One doesn't need to be a smart ass to realize that. We approach this old building burning apart that still has some fire crackles in it, and I'm going to roll a scene prompt for identifying what happens in there. 1 and a 4 is another complication that puts the characters in another complication, number 4, related to the location itself. So something is on fire and something is interesting about that fire itself. We might need here an additional prompt. So we're gonna get game unfolding machines, plot discoveries. To get a clue type and something else, I'm gonna roll a d4 for which and a recent occurrence. This represents 4, a clue type and an occurrence. 15, intentional communication toward you. And 7 is someone decided to disobey or betray. So what we see here is another projection, another spirit. This is going to be an NPC interaction, so let's see the NPC's attitude. 16. Acts with condescendence and superiority. So a spirit comes from the very ashes of the fire and deploys itself as a large spirit, far beyond the size of the characters themselves. I don't know what the intention of this spirit, so I'm gonna roll an intent question here. To see what does it say. 9 and 8. To trade power. This spirit is going to deploy itself and make himself big as the characters approach. And it says, you are known as Goltas. He refers to the rune-tattooed PC goblin, which looks at him and says, I'm not scared of you. No need to be scared of me. You are no match to me. However, I have something that I can offer you. Is that answers? We're looking for answers. I wonder what do they have to offer. 2 and a 9. It's a no. I don't have your petty answers, but I could give you the power to reveal them by yourself. This is a spirit that resembles, like, what does it look like? Let's describe. Someone, 9, that's mostly rich. So it's a spirit of what it seems a nobleman of this old village, abandoned village, and it appears as full of necklaces and rings and ornaments and very fancy clothes. It's on average old person, so on its 40s or 50s. And Goltas asks him, what is it what you want? And the spirit says, your markings, your runes, to be able to understand them. My runes. It is not something I can give. Is it now? Or is it not? What would you give me in exchange? And Rother says, Goltas, stop speaking to it. What are you doing? Goltas is an ambitious goblin and asks, what will it cost me? Let's see. Let's ask a what question. 2 and a 10, that's a sensitive request. What it costs you, that's not something I can explain in vague words. That is for you to figure out. All you need is your agreement in exchange of clairvoyance. If you want clairvoyance, you will have to give me a taste of your power. What will you do with it? Will he answer? 9 and a 6, that's a yes. No, that's a double 9. Yes, unless. So let's see what with game unfolding machine. Evil intentions. There is a table for evil intentions that we want to make use of. This one. It's a D100. 32. Hatred of races or different beings. So the spirit will say, I will remove those who defy our presence in this land and become free. But in order to become free, we need to remove those who are not worthy to be roaming around. That seems pretty vague. Goltas says, it is not for you to understand, the spirit answers. So, if I grant you a touch of my runic power, you will grant me what exactly? So he said clairvoyance. That could mean a way to see. Just once. Just once the recent events of what happened in this village. Rother said, it's not worth it, Goltas. Hydra, the sorceress, is very much interested in this. She's curious and not saying anything. I wonder if Goltas accepts. How can I know to trust you? Asks Goltas. How do you know it's truth what you're offering me? You'll have to take my word. There's nothing but an old spirit's word. And with that, you cannot verify the truth of my words. Fair enough. Let's do it. So we don't know the consequences exactly of this, but Goltas is going to take a risk. And he's going to roll Resolute. To prevent or minimize corruption effects of this. Goltas steps up into the fire ashes and he begins to feel a very strong pain, as if part of himself is going out of him. At first he seems to handle it, but later on the pain becomes harder and harder. I'm going to roll Dissolute roll. On a 7 or less, he might withstand this effect. And he gets an actual 1, so he minimizes the permanent corruption into just temporary corruption, which is a very good thing. It's a 1d6 corruption he would have taken. And it's that just a permanent, temporary corruption of 1. A few minutes later, the pain leaves and he feels his own soul a bit shaken. Then he looks back at the village and sees motion. We need a discovery here, a plot discovery, to figure out what are we discovering on the recent occurrences, so we can know what happened in the village exactly. And also we will see some enemy activities. 12 found or secured a key location, and 8 someone's got sick, cursed, or went mad. This gives me an important vision, which is the following. Goltas turns around. Rother and Hydra look at Goltas, and during this premonition, he's going to levitate. Feeling of darkness surrounds him, but they cannot do anything about it. It is just like a supernatural force making Goltas levitate. His eyes are totally white and gone, but at the same time Goltas seems to be able to move on his own will, levitating with his eyes open. He roams around the village in pure silence, and Rother and Hydra begin to follow him to see what happens to him. But not much happens around him, rather what he is seeing in his head. Rother sees a group of explorers. It's Queen Corinthia's expedition, led by several knights, one of them the very knight that we are looking for, Lord Seraph. He arrives to this village, which is a tribe of hard-working people, tribesmen of different races, most of them orcs, going on their normal living activities. However, when this force of Queen Corinthia, she's not there, but this, let's say it's called an expedition, arrives, they start pushing people outside and making up for space, exactly where the ritual will take place. A few minutes later, what seems to be a shaman comes with her servants and other priests to face and have an argument with the Knights of Ambria. I wonder if Goltas is able to understand what they're saying. So for that I'm gonna roll a resolute to see if he can overcome and make understanding of what the discussion is about. That's a 7, which is a success. So let's see what oracle roll to see what are they talking about. 6 and a 2. Personal event. As we had before rolled on the recent occurrences that someone got sick or cursed, what Goltas is going to see is that the shamans are asking, where is the patient? The knights make up for space, and Lord Seraph himself comes down off the horse. He seems to be weakened, sick, or afflicted by a powerful effect. His skin was pale and there were traces of blood coming out of his eyes, nose and mouth. He seems to be coughing as if he was almost dead. At this time, 2 tribesmen come running toward him as if they wanted to kill him. They were very angry with him, as if he had done something that they did not respect. Goltas can listen some words of cursing him for desecrating a temple or something alike. Lord Seraph pulls his sword and quickly stabs one of them, slashes the throat of the second one, and nobody else seems to intervene in this situation, not even the shamans of the tribe. This is the vision we saw earlier in the archive. The tribesman projection was truth. Lord Seraph did kill 2 tribesmen in here before the ritual took over. Next, the shamans seem to begin preparations, and they place the 2 dead tribesmen in an altar. So the blood is not of Lord Seraph's, but the tribesmen that they were killed by him just before the ritual. I'm gonna ask the oracle if we will know more or if that's it. We will know more. 7 is yes, and 4. We will know one more thing about this. Lord Seraph himself put himself in the ritual circle, and the shamans and other priests begin a ceremony. There is a list of ceremonies in the Game Master's book, which I'm gonna pull to make use of Symbaroum's setting features. The mystical ceremonies. Let's count them and roll one at random. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There are 16 ceremonies in the book. I'm gonna roll a d20 to see which one is the one we will be occurring here. Number 2. The ceremony number 2 in the book is the tidal wave. It's witchcraft. The water of a river or lake pulls away from the shoreline and forms a crushing wave that sweeps far inland, devastating buildings and creatures alike. Let's see if it says what does it achieve. So it's definitely a destruction ceremony. So this is what destroyed the village. And the next thing that Goltas is going to perceive in his vision is the very much tidal wave. The kinetic energy lingers in the area and smaller waves may appear without warning. Any group of persons near the shoreline must roll 1d10. So these are the mechanical effects of it. But what happens is a drought. So there's a river nearby this village, and it becomes a huge wave that smashes through the village. So it isn't fire, it isn't a war, it isn't exactly abandoned. The shaman and Lord Seraph did a huge ceremony just to destroy this village. The question is, do we see what happens to them? I think the vision is gonna finish here. But since we only found the corpse of Lord Seraph in the ritual area and not anyone else's, what is the meaning of that exactly? We cannot tie those things together. But the village in this vision was smashed by a powerful magical ceremony that destroyed everything and everyone else in it. We don't know if the shamans themselves survived or not. We don't know why the body of Lord Seraph is still here, dead. And we didn't see any other corpses so far. With that, Goltas' vision finishes and he falls back on the ground. "Are you alright?" asks Rother, and Goltas wakes up. "I am fine. Tell us what you saw. What did you see?" So Goltas proceeds to explain this vision to Hydra and Rother. And what they learn about this vision, or what they say, is apparently the village was the very much target of its own ceremony that occurred here. And the ritual didn't kill Seraph directly, but it destroyed the entire tribe. Does that make sense or not? We don't know. When we saw Lord Seraph's body, did it have any proof that he was impacted by water? Was it water exactly in the vision, what he saw, what Goltas saw? Was it a draw from the river? It says 6 and a 1, so that's a yes, it was. Or at least it looked like, so possibly looks like water. And you didn't see Seraph survive that ceremony. No, the entire tribe was covered in water. So I guess that, like, how dried out is the area right now? Are there still remnants of water? 7 and 4, yes, there are. So I guess that explains why there's so much water around here, like dumps of water and small swamps. Maybe we can follow the direction of this water. Where did the river water came from? And Goltas points in a certain direction. Maybe we can follow what the water took along it. Can you tell how long this did happen? That is impossible. I vividly felt that vision. I was there, but I could not identify when did that happen. Was the weather like this right now? That's a good question. Let me ask if Goltas was cunning enough to realize that or pay attention to that detail. That's a 17, so he cannot tell exactly whether the weather or the same conditions where that they are one here. That would mean it could have been in a different season or many months ago, but he cannot tell. Fine enough. I guess we can take a look at what did the water from the drought take with it. We can follow the direction of the river's water down into the tribe. So the characters... What happened with the spirit? I guess the spirit disappeared right after this ritual. Very likely he is gone. 5 and 3. That's a yes, he is gone. But there's a but here. So he's gone, but the fire of his ashes still sparkle. This magical fire in a wet leftover of a village is quite strange. But it doesn't have any effect so far, so we just let it be. I guess an active thread is going to be added. The noble spirit, whatever he went to do might be felt later, so I'm going to add it here. So the characters take a break and rest a little bit, sit down to eat something of whatever rations they brought. I'm gonna do a scene check in case anything happens. That's a 5 to add hope or relief. So after an hour or so that they are taking a break, they notice that the spirit's fire ashes finally come to a rest. So whatever happened, their spirit achieved what he could do, perhaps become free, but nothing is free in this world. I'm gonna take the chance to make a prompty question, maybe a situational question. Roll a d100. 87. What if any of our belongings had a secret power? That's a good question. We could see or review the character's belongings. But the only thing that could be special would be Hydra's quarter stuff. So at this point, Hydra's staff is going to start blinking. What does that mean? She tries to concentrate and take its power under control. I'm gonna roll resolute here. That's a 2. She succeeds. That's not her. This is her. And she brings her staff under control. Rother asks, what was that? This place triggers or might have remnants of power. They seem to be impacting anything that's close to magic, including the stone runes that were prepared for this ritual. I see. Can you tell anything about what could have happened? Why would they do this ceremony? Hydra is a ritualist, so she knows a ritual about desecrating a place. A desecrating rite. So she says, I'm not from the orders of magic, but my common sense says that for some reason the Ambrian Knight wanted to cleanse this place as it were cursed. Probably he was cursed by this place itself, so he wanted to avenge. And then he died, not because of the ritual, but because of his previous curse. That would be my current thought. Because he didn't die violently. Goltas, you said he was bleeding, right? Yes, Goltas says. Eyes, nose and mouth were bleeding. We'll have to figure out what kind of curse did he have. Or what had he done. We might need to further see what this impressive water drought brought to this village. Let's follow up the direction of the water. I'm gonna roll a scene prompt for what happens next. That's a 9 and a 7. Progress an active thread. A 7 is to choose one of the threads. We've got Spy on Hyraku, the death of a knight, the noble spirit. So we're gonna progress the death of the Lord Seraph. As the characters begin walking down towards somewhere in the southwest, they find a piece of equipment. Let me generate some object to be found in this situation. Object generator. Let's see by function and state. So double d20. 18 and 7. 18 we've got immobilize, a trap, a hindering related object, and 7 is taken away or moved. So what we see here is a barricade set up by the tribesmen before the ritual. It seemed to have hold or held for a lot of its power until it gave up to try to resist the pressure of the water of the drought. Behind it are there corpses. 4 and a 5 stands for no, there aren't corpses. There's a lot of things. There are remnants of rubble, rocks, and other garbage that came from the tribe was kept here. Is there anything of value or that resembles? So I guess if we said to progress the night plot, what we will find is Lord Seraph's sword. But we said that's poison, immobilize, trap, or hindering. So there is the sword from Lord Seraph among the rubble, held up by this barricade. It's rusted and in bad shape, but immediately can Hydra sense that the sword is emanating a supernatural force of evil characteristics. Gonna roll a random GMA card to get a catalyst. Spirits grow restless. So this sword is giving a bad feeling about in the area. The air feels heavy here. What do we do with this? Hydra is looking for anyone to interact with, some sort of witness. Let's see, can she find anyone? 5 is no, she cannot. There's a lot of, she feels the spirits around her coming and going, or they are like in unrest. Hydra thinks we need to find a way to calm the spirits, to make them relax. We might get some answers if we do that. How? Asks Rother. This sword seems to be emanating an evil sense to it. If we manage to somehow destroy it, it might leave that cursed sense on it. Goltas says, destroy it. That sword is of immense value and power. We could use it. You don't need a cursed sword, believe me, says Hydra. Even if I myself would want to take my hands on it, its shadows are beyond our control. What do you suggest? We need a strong fire to burn this down. We can look for a smith around or in order to put a fire strong enough to melt it down. But we would need to move it and grab it if we wanted to. Let's cover it. Let's cover it with some leather. Rother says, let me do it. I'm not hopefully magically awakened. If you touch it, we don't know the effects, Hydra. So Rother will look for some leathers around him. I'm going to roll a sim check if anything happens in this moment. That's a 2 and a 7. The sim check for 2 is to add stress or worry. As Rother is looking around for some leather, he hears the roar of a hungry wolf. His kid puts himself in defense behind Rother, grabbing himself from his father's leg, and Rother takes out and readies his short sword. The wolf comes and attacks Rother. So he's gonna roll a defense, which is 10. The wolf comes very fast upon him. And despite Rother's attempt to protect himself, pushes away the wolf, but still he bites his arm, and Rother screams in pain. He still, however, gives full priority to his kid, kicks the wolf and pushes him away. Rother's left arm begins to bleed. Next, he will attack with his right arm with his short sword. He will attack with a cheap shot. So he's going to make some sort of feint to trick the wolf to lower his defenses and cause additional damage. Attack will be with quick, and the wolf is gonna defend. A 7 hits the wolf, so he causes 1d6 damage plus 1d6 for the cheap shot itself, plus also a free attack, additional one. So he cuts this wolf's neck. It begins to bleed, and it causes 2d6 damage, 5 damage, and gets an additional attack, which unfortunately terribly fails. The wolf, however, begins to flee. Hurt and in pain, gives up, but Rother is left with an infected, likely infected left arm that's bleeding. The wolf's attack was on a d6, that's a 6, so he's got his toughness down to 2. Pretty bad hurt. But eventually Rother comes back with the leather that he was looking for. Was he? He was not. He would not let the wolf leave because he needs that leather. So he's gonna take his throwing knife and try to finish the wolf as it's fleeing. With accurate, Roth's accuracy is 10. I failed the throwing knife, and the wolf definitely flees. You will have to work harder to find some leather to cover the sword with something protective.